Hunter Dalton had always ruled the college campus with an iron fist and a smirk. Star quarterback, terrifyingly good at both football and intimidation, he thrived on the chaos he caused. Every day, someone cowered under his glares, stumbled over his jabs, or rolled their eyes as he made yet another crude comment. He was untouchable. At least he had thought so. The morning it all changed began like any other, sunlight slicing through his dorm blinds, the distant sound of frat music, and the faint smell of old pizza drifting down the hall. But the second Hunter rolled over, something was off. Very, very off. His limbs felt wrong. His chest felt wrong. His hair was wrong. Long, silky, golden strands spilled over his shoulders, bouncing when he moved. His voice squeaked in a pitch so high it could shatter glass. For a second, he just stared slack-jawed. Then, panic. Hands went to his chest. No, but the voice didn't belong to the voice he expected. It was softer, lighter, unervingly melodic. Clothing, or rather the lack of the right clothing, confirmed the nightmare. Hunter was wearing the college's cheerleading uniform, a tight, midriff-bearing top and a pleated skirt that left little to the imagination. He or she stumbled toward the mirror in the dorm room. The reflection was every stereotype he had once mocked in passing. Perfect blue eyes, flushed cheeks, full lips, and curves that made him feel dizzy just looking at them. Blonde hair framed a face that radiated sweetness, innocence, vulnerability. And suddenly everything made sense. Not the how, not the why, but the reflection staring back at him whispered one terrifying truth. This was no accident. This was karma. By the time he reached the campus cafeteria, the transformation was complete, along with the body language that went with it. Every step felt unsteady, hips swaying in a way Hunter Dalton had never imagined. Every glance from a stranger, every smirk, every leer, hit him like a freight train. He had always been the predator. Now he was the prey. "Morning, gorgeous," came a voice from behind. Hunter froze mid-step as a guy, tall, lanky, and exactly the type he would have tormented, sidled up with a grin that was just a little too familiar. "You're looking wow. Really good today." Hunter's jaw literally dropped. He opened his mouth, trying to respond, but what came out was a tiny squeak. Not intimidating. Not threatening. Just squeaky. And then it hit him. The same irritating, shameless advances he had flung at girls, mocking, crude, and relentless, were now bouncing off him like they had a homing beacon for embarrassment. Every stare, every catcall, every crude compliment came at him with unrelenting precision. By mid-morning, the campus had turned into a gauntlet. Hunter, once the alpha predator of the locker room, found himself dodging ogling eyes at every corner. The frat house boys waved. The jocks leaned too close. Even the professors looked at him with a different kind of attention, raising eyebrows in ways that screamed new social hierarchy detected. Every interaction was a nightmare. When he tried to walk past the football team, the reactions were complicated. Some smirked. Some whispered. A few attempted to touch his hair as if it were some rare exhibit. But one even asked if he'd be interested in after practice, you know. And that was when the first real challenge appeared, practice. The cheerleading squad met for drills, and Hunter was thrust into the center of the floor, expected to perform stunts, flips, and cheer routines he had never learned. The first lift went terribly. He fell. Hard. His face met the mat in a way that was loud enough for the entire gym to hear. Heads turned. Phones came out. Laughter ricocheted off the walls. The squad captain, a petite firecracker named Marissa, shook her head in disbelief. "Hunter, I said keep your core tight. Oh my God, you're like a newborn deer." And it wasn't just the physical comedy. Every misstep came with a side of humiliation. The skirt rode up. Hair flew in his eyes. Voices cracked. And everywhere he turned, someone had a phone ready to capture the disaster. Hunter Dalton had been a master of control. Now every muscle in his body betrayed him. He realized with cold clarity that being attractive could be exhausting. and annoying. And worse, people treated him differently now. They expected sweetness, kindness, compliance. Every obnoxious advance he had thrown in the past now had to be absorbed with perfect, polite smiles. By the end of the first week, Hunter had a list of grievances long enough to rival any term paper he'd ever skipped writing. Every glance now came with judgment, curiosity, or desire. No one took his insults seriously anymore. Trying to intimidate someone resulted in them giggling, taking selfies, or casually ignoring him. Athletic prowess? Still there. But now, physical dominance was less effective when people saw a cheerleader landing a tackle instead of delivering it. And then came the cafeteria incident. It was innocuous at first. Hunter, trying to navigate the lunch line without tripping, spilled a tray of food. A puddle of mac and cheese, chicken nuggets, and soda fanned across the tile. The entire floor erupted into laughter. A boy Hunter had once bullied approached with mock sympathy, helping him up while grinning. "Careful, beautiful. You might break something like my heart." Hunter wanted to scream. He wanted to throw a football through the cafeteria ceiling. Instead, he mumbled some inarticulate protest, and the boy laughed, walking away with a wink that made Hunter want to vanish into the floor. Even his old friends noticed the change. The football team gathered after practice, sizing him up like a puzzle they weren't sure they wanted to solve. "You okay, man?" one asked, voice laced with disbelief. The way they said it, though, it was the way you'd ask if a kitten could handle a bath. Humiliation became a daily routine, absurd in its variety. Hunter discovered that locker rooms had new rules when it came to a cheerleader. He couldn't slam doors, grunt, or belch without being judged. He tripped over gym bags, got caught in hair ties, and discovered firsthand how much it hurt to be ogled while trying to do something as simple as put on deodorant. Worst of all, Hunter began noticing the subtle things. The way his old victims smiled at him, the sly jokes, the whispers in hallways that used to be fear now filled with amusement. Cruel irony wasn't lost on him. He had spent years learning to dominate, to make others squirm, to enjoy discomfort. And now, he was a living lesson in discomfort itself. By the end of the second week, Hunter Dalton wasn't just a cheerleader. He was a spectacle, a lesson, and an object of attention he had spent years handing out without mercy. And for the first time, he truly understood what it meant to be on the receiving end. Hunter Dalton's second week as a cheerleader was a masterclass in humiliation. Every step across campus felt like walking a tightrope made of live wires, and every encounter carried the threat of social catastrophe. The more he tried to assert himself like the old Hunter, the worse things got. The first major calamity happened during practice. The squad was rehearsing a new stunt called the Flying Eagle, which, according to Marissa, required absolute trust and precision. Hunter trusted no one, not even himself. He stepped into position, trying to maintain his old swagger, only to have his footing betray him. One misstep, one wrong pivot, and suddenly he was tumbling through the air, landing face-first into the arms of the very guy he had tormented last semester. "Whoa! Easy there, beautiful," the boy laughed, holding him upright. Hunter's cheeks burned hotter than the football field on game day. And the crowd? Half the squad had phones out. The other half were laughing so hard they nearly dropped him again. If humiliation had a currency, Hunter had just gone bankrupt. The next disaster struck in the cafeteria. Trying to avoid a repeat of the mac and cheese incident, Hunter walked cautiously with a tray of salad and water. One glance at his phone caused him to step on a stray cheerleading pom-pom, sending the tray flying. Salad, dressing, and water rained down on the table where the football team sat. "Wow, I didn't know you could make a salad explode like that," one teammate called out, snapping a photo. Laughter erupted, and Hunter's face contorted in a combination of rage and mortification. In his old life, he would have shoved someone into a locker. Now, he could barely pick up the lettuce without drawing attention. Even the professors contributed to his embarrassment. Chemistry lab became a minefield. Pipettes were no longer just tools, they became instruments of ridicule. Hunter tried to pipette carefully, focusing like he would during a game, only to have the liquid squirt backward, coating his arms and uniform. His lab partner, a girl he had once mocked mercilessly, didn't help. Instead, she chuckled and said, "Nice form, Hunter." Really elegant. It wasn't just the accidents. It was the way people treated him now. Compliments came with a smirk, flirtations were relentless, and whispers followed him like shadows. A casual glance across the quad could trigger an entire conversation about his outfit, his hair, or the curve of his smile. Hunter Dalton, the terror of the football field, now spent hours fending off attention he didn't know how to handle. Turning point came on Friday. The cheer squad had been asked to attend the homecoming pep rally early to set up. Hunter, trying to prove he wasn't completely useless, offered to carry a stack of pom-poms. Only in his new body, strength didn't translate the way it used to. 3 steps in, the pom-poms slipped, flying in all directions. One hit the coach squarely in the face. Another knocked over a folding chair. And the third wrapped itself around Hunter's ankle, sending him sprawling across the gym floor. Marissa sighed and pinched the bridge of her nose. "Hunter, why do I even bother?" But Hunter had begun to notice a strange silver lining amidst the chaos. With each humiliating encounter, he started seeing life differently. The girls he had tormented weren't weak. They were skilled, confident, and gasp funny. The guys who leered didn't hold power. They were insecure, hoping a compliment could mask their awkwardness. And the petty fears he had once ignored? Real, palpable, and unavoidable. The biggest shock came during a casual encounter in the library. Hunter had been trying to hide from the world behind a stack of books, desperate for peace. That's when a group of students he had bullied last semester wandered in. "Hunter," one asked, eyebrows raised. "Is that you?" Hunter froze. Couldn't answer. Words stuck in his squeaky, unfamiliar throat. The group approached, whispering and giggling. Hunter realized, in a way that burned more than any locker room hit, that his reputation had followed him into this body, and it had come back with interest. But the universe wasn't done yet. Next came a showdown in the dorm hallway. Hunter, trying to assert himself, confronted a group of football players who had snickered at him during breakfast. "Back off," he squeaked. Tallest of the group smirked. "Or what, princess?" Hunter's cheeks flushed red as he realized the absurdity of the situation. His old intimidation tactics were useless. He tried a shove, nothing. He yelled, only high-pitched squeaks emerged. Finally, he attempted to stomp his foot for effect. It ended with him tripping over his own skirt, landing on the floor in a tangled heap while the football players laughed until tears streamed down their faces. By the time the semester hit midterm week, Hunter Dalton had become a legend, for all the wrong reasons. He was no longer the feared quarterback or campus bully. He was a magnet for pranks, laughter, and the occasional unwanted attention. Every day was a new test of patience, agility, and humility. Yet, strangely, he started adapting. Hunter discovered he could dodge leers by walking fast, trip over fewer things by focusing, and even use his old cunning in new ways. He learned the art of the polite smile, the deflecting joke, and, surprisingly, genuine empathy. Every fall, every squeaky voice squeal, every misplaced step became a lesson in humility he never wanted but deeply needed. Climax of his humiliation, and possibly the peak of karma, came during the big homecoming game. Hunter had been assigned a routine with the squad, a pyramid stunt right in front of the entire stadium. Confidence was crucial. Coordination mattered. And the crowd was merciless. The base of the pyramid was stable. Marissa nodded at him. "Up you go, Hunter. Don't screw it up." He climbed, trying to channel some shred of his old arrogance. And for a moment, he nailed it. Arms straight, smile dazzling, pose perfect. Crowd cheered. Even the football players seemed impressed. Then came the wind. A gust that no one expected. Hair whipped in his face. Balance faltered. He wobbled. Then, with the dramatic flair of a slapstick movie, the pyramid collapsed. Hunter tumbled, hitting a teammate, then bouncing off the mat before landing awkwardly in the mascot's oversized headpiece. The stadium erupted. Laughter, cheers, and the occasional gasp filled the air. Hunter's cheeks burned brighter than the stadium lights. And as he peeled himself out of the mascot head, he truly realized, that the universe had rewritten his story. He wasn't a bully anymore. He wasn't untouchable. And maybe, just maybe, being a cheerleader, awkward, teased, and constantly embarrassed, was exactly what he needed to understand the world he had spent so long terrorizing. Hunter's journey was far from over. His friends, his enemies, and even the campus itself would continue to test him, humiliate him, and, ironically, teach him. But for the first time, he could see life from a perspective he had never considered. Vulnerable, human, and incredibly, absurdly funny. By mid-semester, Hunter Dalton had become a campus phenomenon. Everywhere he went, whispers and laughter followed, cameras emerged like paparazzi, and the pranks, never ceased. But nothing prepared him for the dorm hall gauntlet. Started innocently enough. A simple walk back to his dorm room after cheer practice. But as he turned the corner, he froze. The hallway had been rigged like a circus obstacle course. Banana peels, rolling laundry baskets, squeaky toys, even a rogue mop bucket. A banner read, "Hunter's Hall of Shame. Avoid at all costs." Before he could react, someone shouted, "Go, princess! Show us those moves." And that was it. Hunter was off. Pom-poms flying, legs tangled in laundry baskets, squeaks bouncing from his lips as he tried to regain balance. One misstep sent him sliding across the floor on a stray rug, arms flailing, until he collided with the door of the dorm RA office. The door opened just in time to catch him, face first, in a stack of unclaimed mail. From somewhere above, laughter rang down. Someone had rigged the dorm balcony with water balloons. A perfectly timed splash drenched him in cold water, leaving his hair plastered to his face and uniform soaked. Hunter groaned, squinting through dripping strands, realizing, yet again, that his old status as campus terror meant nothing now. The next day brought the coffee catastrophe. Hunter, desperate for caffeine to survive another cheer practice, tried ordering at the campus cafe. The barista, a girl he had once mocked for spilling drinks, grinned. "Hey, gorgeous. Want a caramel swirl with that?" Hunter, attempting to assert dignity, muttered something like, "Just coffee." Black. The result? A latte sculpted into a heart with whipped cream, sprinkled with chocolate and served with a side wink. As he walked out, the cup tilted. Coffee sloshed over the rim and the latte, artistic as it was, smeared across his uniform. Students passing by erupted into laughter. A few shouted, "You're too cute to be mad." Humiliation wasn't just public. It had infiltrated every part of Hunter's new life. Showers after practice were no longer private. Stray girls and boys alike would comment on his physique or hair. Dorm room laundry became a minefield of lost socks and curious notes. Even the campus squirrel population seemed to have taken an interest, pelting him with acorns whenever he walked past the quad. Then came the ultimate prank, the mascot swap. The football team, still holding a grudge, swapped Hunter's cheerleading uniform with the oversized campus mascot costume right before the big game. Plan was diabolical in its simplicity. Hunter would attempt the halftime cheer routine in a cumbersome, oversized headpiece, flippers instead of hands, and a tail that knocked over anyone nearby. The results were catastrophic. Hunter stumbled onto the field, trying to maintain balance while waving flippers. Crowd went wild, not with awe but with laughter. He collided with the drumline, sent a banner flying into the stands, and somehow got tangled in the goalpost padding. By the end, he was dizzy, humiliated, and coated in mascot fur, while the cheer squad tried not to collapse with laughter. And yet, Hunter began learning. Not just to survive but to adapt. He discovered subtle powers in his new form. A polite smile could diffuse an aggressive remark. A well-timed joke could redirect attention. Even his squeaky voice, once a curse, became a tool. He could now make people underestimate him, only to turn situations to his favor when needed. One evening, while helping the squad set up for a pep rally, Hunter stumbled into a conversation with Marissa. "You know," she said, tossing a pom-pom between her hands, "you've changed. Not just the outside. You actually listen now." Hunter blinked. This wasn't the recognition of a cute cheerleader. This was real. For the first time, he realized that being vulnerable, truly vulnerable, was a form of strength. But the universe wasn't done with him yet. The homecoming dance arrived, a glittering mess of awkward dances, spilled punch, and overly affectionate couples. Hunter, desperate to avoid further humiliation, tried to stay at the edge, blending into the background. Failed spectacularly. First, someone splashed punch on his skirt. Then, a slow song started, and a guy he had once harassed grabbed his hand with a mischievous grin. "Dance with me, beautiful?" Hunter tried to protest, squeaks of indignation spilling from his mouth, but the music started, and suddenly he was twirling, spinning, trying to keep balance in heels he had never worn before. One step too far, and he tripped into the punch table, sending cups flying. The entire dance floor erupted, capturing every moment on phone cameras. As he struggled to rise, Marissa appeared, helping him steady himself. "You've survived worse, right?" she teased, her eyes twinkling. "Besides, you look ridiculous, but kind of heroic." Hunter could only groan. Ridiculous. Heroic. Two adjectives felt like a perfect summary of his life now. The next morning brought yet another twist. He woke up in his dorm bed, but something was different. His body felt the same, but his reflection wavered in the mirror. Slowly, the outline of his old self flickered through. Hunter Dalton, arrogant, imposing, and angry. A voice inside his head whispered, "You've learned enough, but are you ready to return?" Hunter stared. Cheerleader stared back. And for the first time, he hesitated. Return? To what? To arrogance, to fear, to bullying? Or stay awkward, squeaky, vulnerable, but alive to the reality of others' lives? Then came the final test. The football team was practicing outside, teasing him from the bleachers. One of the guys shouted, "Hey, princess, want to show off your skills?" Hunter took a deep breath. He didn't have the power of brute strength anymore. He didn't have intimidation. But he had something else, perspective, humor, patience, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of cunning. With a squeaky yell, he charged into the drill, not like the Hunter Dalton of old, but like the Hunter Dalton who had tumbled, tripped, and been humiliated into wisdom. He ran, dodged, flailed, and somehow, miraculously, completed the drill, leaving the football team stunned. For the first time in weeks, the campus was silent. Then applause. Some of it hesitant, some of it amused. Hunter bowed, hair bouncing, uniform slightly askew. He had survived. And for the first time he laughed, not at someone else but at himself. Transformation hadn't just been physical. It had been total. And though he didn't know whether he'd ever return to his old self, he understood one thing: life was chaotic, hilarious, and humbling. And karma, oh, karma was deliciously, endlessly educational. Hunter Dalton, quarterback, bully, now blonde cheerleader extraordinaire, had learned the ultimate lesson. To walk a mile in someone else's heels was terrifying, exhausting, and hilarious. And maybe, just maybe, he'd never walk back.